Welcome to another episode of This Is My Architecture. I'm Arti, and joining me today is Peter from Imperva. Peter, thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Peter, tell us what Imperva does.
Imperva is an application and data security company. We help organizations protect their applications, APIs, and databases, whether they're running on premises or in cloud environments like AWS.
Great. Security is job zero for all of us. So, I am really interested to see what architecture we have here. Can we get into the details?
Sure, absolutely. So on the left-hand side here, we have Imperva's different products that we offer. We have our DDoS mitigation capabilities, our Cloud WAF network, our bot protection solution, and our runtime agents.
Okay, so what problem are we trying to solve here with like these agents that are running on premises or in the cloud?
Yep. So as you can imagine, there's lots of attacks out on the internet, and every single month, Imperva blocks trillions of attacks. Trillions of attacks means lots of data. And so one of the big things that we looked to AWS to help us solve was how we move that data from all of our individual products and sensors back to the relevant systems where we need to display them back to our customers or even to their own environments.
Okay, so we are looking at that data ingestion and moving it into a place where your end users can see as well as Imperva can make use of that data. Why don't you walk us through how that's done?
Sure. So for customers that are leveraging either our DDoS mitigation or Cloud WAF network, what will happen is both of those solutions will be able to protect their applications. If any sort of attacks come in, we basically go and we'll see event data coming in to manage streaming for Kafka. Now within here, all of this different event data works through a couple of different life cycles. So the first one that we have to worry about is how do we go and normalize the events, enrich them, and then transform them to be able to deliver them to their final destinations.
So you talked about normalization, enrichment, right? Are these done by like specific subscribers that are subscribed to these topics?
Yep, exactly. So we have certain subscribers that will go and subscribe to them, all of those running over on EKS. And ultimately, our goal for it is to be able to enrich and to be able to add additional context as well as to be able to send it off to its downstream destinations.
You mentioned a large scale of like this data from your producers, right? Like how did you end up choosing managed streaming for Kafka?
Previously, we were doing a lot of batch processing, and ultimately one thing that we found was that it was too slow for a lot of our use cases. So if we take a look at the Cloud WAF instance, anytime there's an attack, you need to be able to quickly be able to investigate that incident or event. In our old systems, this was taking upwards of 20 minutes for us to be able to deliver it back to our customers on-site or on-premise analytics services, systems like Elasticsearch. So by moving to MSK, we were able to drastically reduce that time that it takes to move that back down to less than 3 minutes. Previously, we were always looking at about 20 minutes to be able to go through and do all the batch processing and delivery of that data to their environment.
Got it. And that's a good reduction, right? Like from 20 minutes to less than 3 minutes. For end customers, that's always critical to be alerted immediately as they see any security events. On the MSK, do you have multiple pipelines for each of these subscribers?
Yeah, the way that we generally will look at it is we have two main sets of pipelines that we have to work with. The first one is for event data. And so these are all of the different security events. Now, one of the big concerns that we have for event data is a lot of this data is also subject to GDPR and all sorts of privacy regulations. And so there's lots of data sovereignty requirements for it. So we replicate the different event topics all around the globe, and we're able to ensure that we're not actually impacting the customer's privacy and regulations. The second topic that we have here is really focused on metrics. Now, metrics are all of the different data that each of these individual services and sensors produce that make it easy for the organization to be able to understand what's exactly happening.
Great. That's a very good use case for MSK. You mentioned here that you ingest data into a customer's Elasticsearch or a SIEM environment, right? From a customer's perspective, they've got this data. What do you use the other environments here for?
Yep, so the next major use case that we have is we send this data to our research data lake. So our threat researchers take all of this data and they understand attack patterns in the internet. So they understand how botnets are going and leveraging new modern exploits to attack our customers. The benefit by us processing and sending that to our research data lake and using technologies like EMR to process it is we're able to very quickly identify these new attackers, push that information back to our customers, and then they can automatically gain that protection through our Cloud WAF network and other solutions.
And that's good a level of analytics here where you ingest data back to say, hey, we've we've figured out that there's much more that we can find out even at the initial layer. And I do see EKS at the bottom. What do you use EKS for?
Well, we actually use EKS for pretty much everything, but one of the biggest use cases that we have is we have all the event data, which goes into various different data stores, but then we also have all the metric data. The metric data we need to be able to use to display back to our customers in their dashboards, as well as being able to pull it via our APIs. And so we use EKS and a set of time series databases that are hosted on EKS to store this data and make it immediately available for our customers.
Okay. This is a neat architecture of how you've actually moved from your earlier batch processing to MSK and using different producers to make sure that security of your customers is always the #1 priority. Thank you for sharing this architecture with us today, Peter. And thank you for watching. This is my architecture.